guys like dinosaurs? I feel like at some point or another, whenever you were young, you had a weird obsession with dinosaurs. I know it. I know you. I know what your childhood was like. There's something about them that's so friggin' cool. And that's what we're gonna be talking about today. Jurassic Park. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Jurassic Park without the boring humans. Yeah, we're talking about dinosaurs. This is a movie that I watched a lot when I was younger. And honestly, I may be in the minority here, but I kind of loved the movie. And after researching this movie, it's honestly confusing why it faded into irrelevancy after a while. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the greatest movie of all time, but I feel like it deserves to be recognized. It's definitely one of those underappreciated movies. I mean, it has an amazing score, a great antagonist, great side characters, and I mean, you know, kind of lukewarm main character. And yes, this movie's cliche. Yes, this movie is predictable, but I feel like it was well done. So well that I watched it over and over as a child and as an adult. As I watch it today, it's still really good. I mean, let's be honest, every time I watch a movie that I haven't watched when I was a kid, I always expect it to be shit, but this honestly impressed me. It was great. I even found myself getting a little bit of emotional. What, am I a pussy? Am I a baby? Huh? But something I was really impressed by, which I wasn't expecting to be impressed by, was the visuals, which is ironic because I feel like that's what a lot of people don't like about this movie. Because I would like to clarify, yes, the animation is what you would consider to be a little off. It does fit into that realm of uncanny valley because they really did go for that pseudo-realistic vibe with this movie. They did an amazing job, but it ended up being a little bit uncanny here and there. And I feel like the reason for that is a lot of this movie is actually practical effects. I know that's crazy to think about, but this animated movie isn't just pure CGI. There's a lot of practical stuff going on here. I mean, for the year 2000, this stuff was kind of breakthrough for its time because one of the visually stunning parts about this movie was really the landscapes. And something interesting about the landscapes, like I said before, they're actually real. They're not just CGI animated. A lot of the landscapes are actually footage taken of landscape. I need to stop saying landscape over and over. Most of the world that you see in this are just locations that the producers recorded. They actually used mats and recreated the locations of where the dinosaurs would be in relevance to the location that they're at, and then took that and then plopped the dinosaurs into it. Basically, they wanted this movie to be the most realistic representation of dinosaurs for the year 2000, and they did a damn good job. Not to mention the underrated score of this movie. This movie has some great music. A good way to describe this movie is it's very grandiose. It's very big, very bombastic. It's almost like a spectacle half the time watching this movie. So let's go together holding hands, skipping through the meadow, and let's talk about the good, the bad, and the piss about this movie. And I'm gonna show you why this is an underrated gem, and you should appreciate it. It's hot. It's hot outside. It's warmer than normal. And the best thing to do when it's hot is dip those nips into a pool, baby. But before you even start thinking about dipping your nips into the pool, you gotta start thinking about what you're gonna be wearing. Well, that's why I'm here. I mean, it's not like why I exist. It's just like why I'm about MeUndies. Yes, that MeUndies, the one known for their extremely comfortable underwear that I personally use. They are now making some of the most comfortable and stylish swimwear you can get. They are super soft, stretchy, sustainable material, and it's adjustable for any fit. And something that's really cool about it is they use recycled materials for this. Nylon, plastic bottles, even old fishing nets to create these super comfortable swimwears. And it's also size inclusive. They go from extra small all the way to 4XL. And this is a limited stock, ladies and gentlemen. You need to get it while supplies last. I mean, just look at all these amazing prints and styles. So treat yourself this summer with some comfortable swimwear. Go to MeUndies.com/Bionic and you could get 15% off your first purchase at MeUndies. So how this movie starts is honestly a beautiful introduction to the movie and what you're going to be expecting. We see Aladar as a baby egg with his mom and a bunch of other dinos nesting. A small dinosaur trots off into the forest chasing a little bug, and then he discovers a carnotaur. Carnotaur, which I just want to mention. I love the fact that they didn't just use the classic T-Rex, which, don't get me wrong, a Carnotaur is very close in relation to a T-Rex, but it looks a lot more scary, I guess. They got those horns and like the red tint on their back. It just looks like a cooler T-Rex. So the Carnotaur chases the little dino, runs off all the other dinosaurs, and then ends up killing off one of the stragglers. And I just want to mention, this movie pulls zero punches when it comes to violence. And the reason they can do that for a kid's movie is the educational value and the fact that it's just nature, baby. It's just what it is. Like, we see dinosaurs getting fully eaten to the bone. We see dinosaurs die and get like brutally killed. Like, it's nature, baby. But the lone egg that survived was Aladar. And this scene is honestly one of my favorites in the movie. A small dino, and no, I'm not going to list every single scientific name that they have. I'm literally just going to call most of these things dinos. Deal with it. So little dino takes egg, and we get a good introduction to the world. It begins with no music, and then you just hear the small dino take the egg, make a little mouth noises, and it runs through the forest. And then as the scene goes on, it gets bigger and bigger. We get bigger dinosaurs, we get bigger landscapes, and the music keeps swelling and swelling until we get the climax of the pterodactyl taking Aladar and flying him through a bunch of mountains. They just did a really good job of like gradually introducing everyone to the world a little bit piece by piece. Stop flapping in my face, Shadow. But Aladar eventually gets dropped next to a bunch of lemurs who raise him as their own. So we skip to the future. Aladar is a big dino. He's an adult with his lemur family. He's kind of a gentle giant to all the other lemurs. We get to see a little bit of how happy their lives are and stuff. We get a little bit of a lemur romance scene where Aladar's kind of like, oh man, you know, it would be nice if I had a lemur. What are you doing, Shadow? And then what comes next is the coolest scene in this movie. Still gives me chills to this day. I remember the scene so vividly. Just how cool and at the same time completely terrifying this scene is. A meteor shower starts happening far off into the ocean, and as they all gaze at the spectacle, because they're just dinosaurs and lemurs, they don't know what the hell it is. They're completely unaware to the doom that is about to come. And then a gigantic meteor hurtles toward the ocean, and no, this is not like the meteor that wipes out all dino existence. I think it's just a stray one. I don't know. But in the distance, they see a nuclear level cataclysm explosion. And God, they portrayed this part so good and accurate. As they see this explosion unfold, it's just pure silence. And then it's followed by a couple shockwaves. And they even accurately did the whole, push-pull of the shockwave and like the two different shockwaves. But anyway, I'll move on and stop gushing. So we get the scene of them all running away and freaking out, trying to get away from the explosion. And in the end, Aladar and a few of his lemur family jump into the ocean and get away. And something amazing about this scene is a lot of it is practical. The explosions, the island erupting, basically, all the little explosions on the ground itself is practical. They actually videoed them on a truck driving through the actual landscape and then use that as the footage. It just melds together so well. And that's what makes this scene so freaking good. But alas, their home was destroyed and only a few of the lemurs survived. And this is where Aladar and his lemur family's journey begins, along with the old man lemur, mommy lemur that made many people become a furry, child lemur, and Daxter from Jak and Daxter. But after they walk for a long time, they end up running into a giant herd of a bunch of different dinos. And then Aladar first gets introduced to two of my favorite characters in this movie, Baleen, who is an old Bronchiosaurus, and Ema, who is a Styracosaurus. Don't know if I said that right. And we both see that they are kind of gentle beings and also friends. They explain to Aladar that they are headed to the nesting grounds and are led by the ruthless Crone and Bruton, which I just want to mention are really good bad guy names. But those two are kind of the main antagonists of the movie. But honestly, Crone is a great antagonist. And personally, I think he gets a really bad rap throughout this movie. Throughout this movie, he is labeled as this, terrible tyrant, which don't get me wrong, he is selfish and he is an asshole. So I get to an extent, that whole thing. But his whole mindset is survival of the fittest. If you get left behind, if a predator catches you, you're on your own, suck it up. But I feel like at the same time, he does actually care about everyone getting to the nesting grounds. He's just using a more selfish, less caring tactic because he realizes, if the whole entire herd slows down for the people in the back who can't keep up, that might just end up putting the entire herd in danger. And obviously, Aladar thinks completely differently, and he's the whole no man left behind kind of guy, which don't get me wrong, Aladar is completely right, but at least Crone has his heart in the right place. I mean, Crone's been doing this for years and years. He just has a plan and he sticks to it and he does it. That's just kind of his thing. But Crone just runs into some really unlucky situations that we will see along the way. But something I do want to mention about this movie is the character designs are actually really well done, because it's hard to make a movie about dinosaurs that are quote unquote realistic and not make the dinosaurs look like they're kind of the same. This movie gave each dinosaur kind of defining traits. Like Bruton and Crone, you could tell them apart instantly, even though they're the exact same dinosaur as Aladar. But anyway, Bruton tells everyone that there will be no water until they cross the desert. And you know, if someone gets left behind, they're on their own. So we get a montage of them suffering through the desert. We even witness a dino die of heat exhaustion, and we also get to see predators eat that dinosaur to the bone. Yeah, pretty depressing, but that's nature, baby. And then we get introduced to the Carnotaurs, too, as a matter of fact. Apparently, they're following the trail of the herd. And also throughout the movie, there is a little bit of a romance, which, you know, I completely understand why they put this in there. You know, Aladar was raised by lemurs. He never really got to touch any other Aladar dino pussy. I didn't like that coming out of my mouth. But personally, I think the romance kind of sucks in this movie. I'll mention it here and there, just not much, because the romance is with Crone's sister, so there is a little bit of tension there, but whatever. But we get a huge turning point in the movie. They make it to the lake, which is supposedly where water collects in the desert, for them to have a stopping point and drink some water before they reach the nesting grounds. This is one of those things where Crone just kind of gets unlucky in these situations, because he's used to doing the exact same thing every year and it always works, but this time it didn't work because the lake is all dried up. And instead of Crone, you know, taking a break, letting the herd recover, he gets angry that there's no water, so he just yells at everyone to move out. However, before the herd completely leaves, Baleen walks onto the dried lake and Aladar hears water. So he has Baleen pressed down, and then we see that water's actually underneath the dried ground. And this is where we really start to see how selfish Crone actually is, as the entire herd fights over the water and he fights off the entire herd to get the water himself. But during all of this, Bruton and a scout is going around the perimeter to check for any predators, and unfortunately there's a couple Carnotaurs. Useless character dies, and then Bruton gets injured from the Carnotaurs. However, he ends up leading the Carnotaurs back to the herd to tell Crone that there are Carnotaurs. And instead of Crone caring about Bruton, he says, hey, you should have just fed yourself to the Carnotaurs so the herd could survive. You know, going back to Crone's whole idea that, you know, the herd before a single person type deal. Like, he puts the herd before anyone else, which again is respectable and why I think Crone is a good bad guy. He's just misunderstood. We even see Aladar get angry and try to command the herd, which pisses off Crone, obviously, and Crone says, yo, you do that again, I'll kill you. So the herd takes off because the Carnotaurs and obviously Aladar with Baleen, Ema, and Earl and the lemurs are kind of stuck on their own because they all can't keep up. So they're on their own with Carnotaurs on their tail. But on the way, they run into none other than Bruton, who was left behind by Crone, showing the true brutality of Crone and how heartless he can be. Even a secondhand man he would leave behind just so he could stick to his ideals of, you know, survival of the fittest. Which, I mean, you know, that's some commitment right there. So a storm rolls in. I assume we're past the desert because there's a storm now, but that pushes them into a cave. They invite Bruton in, and then eventually he reluctantly joins them. Nera gives him a plant that will help heal his wounds, and we get a little cheesy portion of here of like Bruton being like, it's my destiny to die here. Why is he giving all of these fools false hope? And then Nera's like, there's always a choice. It's not your fate to die here if you choose so. And he goes, bleh. Bitch, shut up. And this next scene, oh my god, it's so sad. I love this next scene, but it's so sad. So the Carnotaurs find their location, and as the Carnotaurs catch Aladar and are about to kill him, Bruton actually sacrifices himself to hold off the Carnotaurs so the others can escape. That's some goddamn character development right there. And as a last-ditch effort to save all of them, Bruton ends up causing a cave-in where it ends up killing one of the Carnotaurs and himself in the process. Going against literally everything him and Crone have believed in since the beginning, where he actually sacrificed himself for others when it's always been about the opposite. God damn it, why do children's movies about dinosaurs always hit so hard? So they follow the cave deeper and deeper until they stumble upon a dead end. However, Zenny starts digging and then he finds that past this wall is a light. So Baleen, Aladar, Ema, and Earl all together start knocking the rocks until the entire wall falls down, and then they see the nesting grounds. They miraculously got lucky and made it. But something is wrong. The herd isn't there. None of them are. And Ema tells Aladar that the location they normally come through is completely blocked off by a rock wall. So anyway, Aladar realizes that the herd is not going to make it, and since he wants that dino pussy, he's going to go and save him. So he runs back to tell Crone, but obviously we all know how Crone works. Again, I just want to mention, Crone gets so freaking unlucky in this movie. He's been doing the exact same thing every year for probably decades. And first, he runs into a lake with no water, and now the entrance to the nesting grounds is covered by a giant rock wall. So obviously this makes Crone very upset, because when Crone gets to the big wall, instead of, trying to adapt and finding a way around, he goes, let's climb it. It's a good idea. Good idea, Crone. So yeah, Crone's yelling at everyone to climb it. Aladar's like, you idiot, there's a sheer drop on the other side, stop being a Dumbo. So Aladar tells everyone that he knows a way to get to the nesting ground. The herd starts following him, and on the way back, oh no, there's a Carnotaur waiting for all of them. So anyway, it's the entire herd backed against the wall against the Carnotaur. And then Aladar, yes, Aladar uses the power of friendship. Basically, as the Carnotaur starts running toward him, Aladar starts, roaring back at him, and then the entire herd starts roaring at the Carnotaur, and the Carnotaur's like, oh, hey, I'm in trouble. This isn't good. So then the Carnotaur just starts backing up, and then they all just kind of walk past the Carnotaur as they're all yelling at him. So as the entire herd walks past the Carnotaur turns and sees that Crone is still trying to climb that stupid wall. God damn it, Crone, you're so dumb. So the Carnotaur chases Crone. So Aladar goes to save Crone, and also Nira goes to help as well. And in the end, Crone dies. Aladar knocks the Carnotaur down a giant cliff, and then the Carnotaur dies. So Crone, honestly, I don't think he deserved to die. It honestly made me mad. I feel like Crone shouldn't have died. We should have had a little bit of character development where at the end, maybe he saved Aladar and then they became buddy-buddy. I feel like he got a bad rap. Like he died before he even saw that Aladar actually saved Nira. Like he literally saw that Nira was getting attacked by a Carnotaur and then he died. So in his death, he just assumed that his sister and Aladar are both dead. That's not fair. That's not fair, Disney. So in the end of the movie, obviously Aladar and Nira did the dino dance. They touched each other's tails together. That's how they breed, right? And then they made a baby egg, and then the egg hatched, and then everybody lives happily ever after except Crone. Personally, I think at least Crone should have lived. Bruton, that was a good character development scene. I'm glad it happened. I honestly just wish Crone got a little bit more, a little bit more in there. I mean, I get it because the movie did make him out to be this terrible tyrant that would never change. So in a good way, it's good that he died. He was the bad guy. But I think it would have been a little bit better if Crone lived a little bit longer, or maybe saw that Aladar saved him and then realized, oh, he's not that bad of a guy after all, And then he got to see that the herd actually made it to the nesting ground. I feel like that would have been a good end. If Crone got to witness all of this herd make it to the nesting ground and then he passed away or something like that, that would have been a lot better, because then he would have been happy that he actually fulfilled his duty. Come on, give Crone something, man. He's an asshole, but I mean, at least he cared a little bit, sort of. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's Dinosaur. Honestly, I feel like it's a great movie. I really think it gets a bad rap sometimes. I feel like a lot of people say the animation isn't that great when they really just don't understand what went into it. If you guys like this video, please make sure to like it. That's how it's normally what you do when you like a video. Comment, subscribe, tell your mom about me. You got anything to say, Shadow? Huh? No, you're just gonna run. I want to leave this place. He just doesn't like you guys. That's what it is. Bye.